My own mother obeyed me and switched my destiny. Part 1. I was 12 years old when my mother left us in a rush and for 6 months had not returned. When she left, no preparation of sort were made for our care, and we left with her with our grandmother, who unwillingly housed us. After about a year, we heard from my mother. She told us that there was a storm on the night she arrived on the island she went to. She spoke of the disaster and how she and her boyfriend, who we knew prior to her leaving, had to struggle. Through this interaction was when I found out that she didn't travel alone to the island of Cayman, but changed her ticket at the airport and had run off with her secret lover behind my stepfather's back. Things didn't seem to be going well at that time, but in 3 years, she offered to take us for a vacation. She took us to 2 smaller ones, and we were off to visit in the summer of 1996. While on vacation, one day I was dressed and adorned by my mother, under the pretext that we were going out for lunch. Hair, makeup, jewelry, new clothes, perfume, glasses, everything was above and beyond. Just before we left the house, her boyfriend came home from his job to refresh, and they started arguing over me and the way I looked. I couldn't understand because the level of fear and frustration from him didn't match the circumstances. I was ready to undo it all to save the peace because this was what my mom told me the issue was. When they argued, I was asked to leave the house and wait outside. I had no idea of the reality. I had no reason to distrust my mother. We left the house and went to a plaza where a fancy man picked us up and drove off. I liked his style and his elegance, but I also noticed how much respect he commanded, and my mom's behavior was evident of it. We arrived at the lunch in less than 10 minutes. It was a waterfront building on the top floor. I was asked to wait while my mom went into a back office. While I was waiting, I was pacing back and forth because I felt anxious, as this was not mentioned to me or hinted at, and it felt weird. But although the vibe was weird, I kept thinking that we would soon leave and I would be able to ask her who he was. While I was pacing, there was a cup in the southwest corner of the room on a coffee table. I suddenly felt the urge to look into the cup, and when I did, I saw cobwebs and thought to myself how long the cup must have been sitting there. As I pondered, trying to make sense of the wealthy man and how the cup of cobweb didn't line up with the image, I realized that I felt like sounds from another room was coming from the cup. I turned to see if my mom meeting with the fancy guy was over, only to find that I had lost control over my ways or my physical self. I felt trapped is the best way to explain it. The next day was Saturday, and we usually go to church and then the beach, but this time she decided to take us to the beach and not to go to church. She told us it was because it was our last weekend together. We went to the beach, and to my surprise, it was empty. Usually, the beach was hype with food, music, craft, and families were out, but not this day. We carried on thinking that we were just early. My brother was a better swimmer than I was, as he lived with his grandparents and had to learn at church camp. We were not aware of that up until that day. While we were swimming close to the shore, my mom tried to get us to float. I agreed. My brother was mostly diving away from us. After what seemed like an hour, my mom said she can't feel the ocean floor, and she held on to the floaty that I was on. I was fully secured in her trust, as she is my mom, and she told me that she could see the shoreline. I am not really the type to panic, so I stayed calm and made no sudden movement. Just then, my mom let me go and started drowning. Then she started to grab me by my face, neck, and shoulder. We struggled a bit. Then my brother came in from behind and chokehold her away from me. I don't know how I managed to follow, but I did, and I couldn't swim, and had never gone to the beach except for 2 times before. When it was over, I was left with a gash from her nail when she grabbed me. We all agreed not to speak of it to anyone. We went on with life and came home, only to realize that the people in my life seem to be living their lives as if I am not there. Others would totally go against me and create challenges. I simply wrote it off as teenage blues. Prior to going on the vacation, I was raped on Christmas and was being stalked by the perp. So I had applied for a school out of town. And I remember not telling my mom while on vacation because I didn't want to burden her.